Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by...
When Signs and Displays Direct was launched 15 years ago, it featured a complete line of banners and stands, product displays, and more. Today, the company is known as SDD and is the industry leader in turnkey, no-inventory POP programs. SDD has expanded into branding programs for both corporate and private label, as well as consulting services for retail showroom design and more. Visit sdd-us.com. That's sdd-us.com. I'll tell you, you touched on stories behind the songs. I'd be remiss because our viewers are hardcore music people, and things that they really go for, look for is stories behind songs. So you're talking about the Tubes. Let's hit a couple of those songs. Talk to You Later. How did that one come about?
Okay, Talk to You Later. So Talk to You Later was on Completion Backward Principle, and it was the first album we had done with David Foster. And David, talk about brilliant producers. That guy is amazing. And we had done, Talk to You Later was the last song we did on the record. We had done all those songs, Amnesia, and I mean, talk about vocals, the Amnesia was the first vocal I did with David Foster. And, you can't fix anything. You've got to sing it again. And I, up to that point, I had never worked with a producer so demanding and such a perfectionist as David Foster. And I was trying to sing Amnesia. He goes, no, you're singing sharp. It took me, I think, like 12 hours. It took 3 days of singing 4 hours a day to get a vocal on Amnesia that Foster would accept.
Wow.
Oh man. And so anyway, we had they wanted at the time ballads were, we knew that David knew, and the record company, we knew that the record company wanted a ballad. They wanted a power ballad because that's what they wanted to release first. And there was other band, Journey had a big ballad hit, and REO Speedwagon had a big ballad hit. And David Foster had just written After the Love Is Gone with Earth, Wind and Fire. Boogie Wonderland was the album he had done just before us. And so Vince and I wrote Don't Want to Wait Anymore. So we had the power ballad in the bag. And so they also wanted a hard rock song and for the rock charts. And so Foz, he said, well, we don't have the rock song. We don't have it. And the band, had a couple of other choices and he didn't like them. And he says, he says, I have a friend who's a great writer and a great guitar player. His name is Steve Lukather. And at the time, Steve Lukather, with the guitar player from Toto, right, was like the session guy in LA. And he said, we were booked at a studio we were here in LA in the Valley. There was I can't remember the name of the studio, Record One, I think it was called. It was in Panorama City. Which was like a ghetto where I remember one time I talked to the neighborhood cop, and he says, if you have a burglary in your neighborhood, he says, I won't be there because I'll be in Panorama City, where all the gang members are. And so anyway, we were recording there, and we were doing sessions from 4 o'clock to midnight. That was our slot. And so Foster says, okay, let's meet at 10 in the morning, and you and I'm going to have this guy, Steve Lukather, come and meet us, and we'll see if we can write a tune together. And okay, So we showed up at the studio at 10 in the morning, and I met Steve, and I never met him before. And and Foster goes, you know, we need a kind of an up-tempo rock song. And Luke goes, okay. And, you know, so we're kind of sitting around, and, you know, I don't have a title. I don't have we have nothing. And all of a sudden, Luke kind of is just playing with his guitar and, you know, trying different things. And all of a sudden he kind of goes, dun, 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 dun. And Foz goes, there you go, right there. Do that more. And I mean, it was that quick. He's such a brilliant guitar player. And that was it. We started writing the song, and we started recording the song. And I mean, we did the whole song, and I wrote the, and usually I'm not quick with lyrics. Usually, you know, when I write with Richard, he'll send me a track and I'll listen to it 1,000 times. And then all of a sudden something will happen, and I'll go, you know, and I'll figure out, what is it? Happy? Is it sad? Is it a song about a girl? Is it a song about society? Is it a song of love, hate, whatever? And in this particular case, we got to the chorus, and, you know, and the melody, I don't know if Steve wrote the melody or if Foster wrote the melody, but anyway, I realized it was dun 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 was the melody of the line of the chorus. And Umberto Gatica was the engineer who always worked with David Foster at the time. He was from Chile, and he had this great accent, and he was brilliant. Probably still is. And really quick. And he used to, and this is the first time we had worked with him, and the first time we had worked with Foster, and they were so brilliant. And we were always asking questions. Well, what does this do? Well, what does that do? And how come you're doing this? And, oh, couldn't we get a little more delay on this? And we're constantly, and Umberto didn't want to hear it. He had his technique, and he was going to do it the way he wanted to do it. And instead of saying what he would say in response to our boneheaded questions was, talk to you later. Talk to you later. He wouldn't say, no, you're an idiot. You know, don't ask me. He would say, talk to you later. And that was his way of being a nice guy.
Yeah.
And that's where and I just went, I can't, oh, okay, well, I got it. And I ended up writing the lyrics that day right there. And I think it's the first time I ever wrote the lyrics in one day and didn't, you know, agonize over them again and again. And so we recorded this. I mean, we recorded it. Lukather played the guitar. He played the bass. He played the rhythm. Foster played the keys. There's not a lot of keyboards on it, but I did a guide vocal, a rough vocal, and at about gosh, I guess at about 2 o'clock. This was like in 4 hours. At about 2 o'clock, Foz says, "Well, let's put drums on it," you know, and the band's supposed to be in it at 4 p.m. So at 2 o'clock, we call Prairie up. Prairie comes to the studio, and so Prairie lays down the drum track. And so when everybody shows up at 4 o'clock, we've got this whole song almost completely done. You know, all we needed was like background vocals and you know, maybe it was amazing. And Lukather did the solo, same thing, like one take, he does a solo. So that's where Talk to You Later came from, and I knew it. I mean, I knew it. You know, we went ahead and we continued on with the session we were doing. And that night, I was staying. At the time, we had a manager. His name was Ricky Farr, and he was a Welshman. And he had a sound and lights company, a big time sound and lights company. He used to do Rod Stewart and Stevie Wonder and all these massive stadium type gigs, arena gigs. And Ricky Farr was the son of the famous boxer from Wales, Tommy Farr, who actually fought Joe Louis for the heavyweight championship of the world at one time. He was the heavyweight champion of Europe. I can't remember whether his name was Tommy Farr. I can't remember. Jeez.
Either way.
Anyway, Ricky was, he had never managed a band before, and he was just an insane Welshman. He used to take us all to dinner, and he would jump up on the table with 2 bottles of champagne in each hand, and he would just start singing, and he was just a happy, wonderful guy, and a big, like a rugby player guy, with that wide, and I mean, strong as a bull. And I remember going, and he lived in Toluca Lake, which is a suburb in the valley here of Hollywood, and he lived in Red Fox's house, and he had a wife, a German wife, Jeanette, and he had 2 children at the time. And I came home, and I was staying at his house, and when we were in town doing the record, because we all lived in San Francisco at the time, and I remember vividly we did a demo on a cassette tape, a rough demo to take home. And I got back to the house at about, 1 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was asleep. And I woke Ricky up, and I woke Jeanette. I said, Ricky, this song is a hit. You've got, and we stuck it in the cassette player, and I played it for him that night. And it went to #1 on the rock chart here in the USA. I think it was #1 in 17 countries.
Wow.
And still, still Talk to You Later is pretty much the closer of our set. Our encore has been for years. We do White Punks on Dope, and Quaalude, pukes on the front row and then staggers off the stage, and then I take off the shoes and the wig and the whole Quaalude thing, and then we go back out and we do She's a Beauty, and we do Talk to You Later. And
well, I was going to say, obviously, the viewers want to know She's a Beauty as well, because that was a monster hit for you guys.
It was a big hit. It was #2. It went to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100. I was praying for it to go to #1, but no, never went to #1. And She's a Beauty. I mean, as hard as it may be to believe, same thing. Foz says, let's get Luke out here and write another one. And it went so well. And I have to say that the band guys weren't absolutely thrilled with the idea, but we met again with Luke and David Foster and I, and we wrote She's a Beauty. And same thing. Lukather came up with it in a heartbeat, played the solo. Actually, some of the other Toto guys played on it. David Page played keyboards, and same thing happened. And the title wise, Foz used to say, he's Canadian, and he used to say beauty all the time, beauty, and we would go, oh, you're such a hoser, God. And kind of the impetus for the lyric, they don't have these anymore, but in San Francisco, there's like the red light district where the prostitutes are, and it's called the Tenderloin. And in the Tenderloin, I don't know where, I think we were doing a gig at the Warfield Theater, which is kind of downtown in the Tenderloin area, and I was walking around, and they used to have these like a kiosk, like a telephone booth, and with no windows, right? And the sign said, "Pay $1, talk to a naked girl." And it was in front. Usually, they were in front of like a massage parlor, you know, like a you know, happy ending kind of massage parlor, and and I saw this, and I had never done it, you know, and it always kind of intrigued me. Pay $1, talk to a naked, what? And so I did it. I put $1 in, and the wall comes down, and there's a live girl in there, and she starts stripping, right? And I mean, it's a complete tease because, you know, before they get hardly any clothes off, the wall comes back down again, and you got to put in another $1. And
Go figure.
yeah, and I don't think they ever actually get naked. But I started, and this girl is gorgeous, just like, and I immediately kind of, I'm the rube, you know, and I go, how, what are you doing this for? I said, you could be a model. You don't need to do this. And, you know, and I think I actually even offered her a gig. I said, well, you could be a tubes dancer. You could be a tubette. You're gorgeous. Well, you can't. And she kept going, yeah, hi, honey, let's go. And she had like obviously a line, you know, honey, just put in another $1 and then you can go right inside to the man. We'll give you a nice massage for, you know, $50 or whatever. And she never broke out of her character.
She was in character, yeah.
Never. And I put in another $1 and I kept talking. Fine. So that was kind of the impetus for the lyric to the song. And originally the lyric was you can talk to a naked girl instead of you can talk to a pretty girl. And it was naked originally. And Foster goes, no, you can't say naked.
That's not going to work.
Record company's not going to like you saying naked. You got to change it. What do you mean naked? Okay. So I had to change it to pretty. But and then the other funny thing about the video for She's a Beauty, there was we wanted to do this. There's a movie called Freaks from 1939. I don't know. I mean, you people that are old as me will probably know of it. It was done by a guy named Todd Browning, and it was a movie about a sideshow, and it was a movie about the freaks in a sideshow, and like Slitsy the Pinhead, and the Chicken Woman, and the Sausage Man, and it was about these people that made a living, you know, like a quadriplegic who made a living in a sideshow, and a lot of it was, you know, like the Chicken Woman was a chicken's body with a woman's head, and you know, so they obviously was not real, but Slitsy the Pinhead,
still freakish.
Yeah, so it was Freaks. And we loved it. We thought that was a great movie. And so we wanted to do a video using that kind of a theme with a freak show with freaks and kind of figure out how. And so we had this elaborate storyline that we put together, Mike Cotton and Prairie and Kenny Ortega. And there was at the time in Southern California, there was a little shabby circus, nothing like Ringling Brothers at all, a little shabby circus. It was called the Circus Vargas, and it was a tiny little, you know, they had like one animal and it used to tour around Southern California, and we contacted them, and at the time they had in LA or outside LA, somewhere near LA, they had a lot where they would store their stuff. You know, they had a merry-go-round, and they had a few rides, and they had tents, and they had, you know, one tiger or something. I don't know what, I can't remember. But so we got a hold of them, and we made it. We decided we were going to go to their little thing and set up like a freak show midway and film the video there. And the whole She's a Beauty thing was kind of going to be kind of like a Todd Browning Freaks tribute. And we showed it to the A&M, Capitol. We were at Capitol at the time. We actually filmed the video, ended up filming it at the A&M soundstage in LA. But they said, no way.
Surprise.
No, they said MTV had just started, right? MTV started in 81. We had a lot of play there on the completion backward principle. And we did a full length video, a home video, the Tubes video for MTV. And so MTV was only 2 or 3 years. They had no way. MTV's not going to go for this. You cannot. And they shot down the whole thing. So then we had to come up with this kind of hokey ride. The video for She's a Beauty was like an plan B. And, we had a little like a little ride that went through this kind of sideshow kind of thing. And we had the mermaid. Of course, we wanted the mermaid to be topless. They said, no tits. Sorry, you can't do that either. And
what were they thinking?
Yeah, really. And so it was kind of a Barker kind of thing with me and the boater and the striped jacket, and the whole theme was kind of a sideshow kind of thing. But they even, and at the very end of the video, there's a big paper screen that the rider, the little kid in the car was actually Rosanna Arquette's little brother, who is now a woman, Alexis Arquette. Well, he was a boy back then, and fine, whatever. And Prairie had painted a gigantic breast on a spray, airbrushed on a big big piece of paper, and we were going to crush through the giant breast at the end. Well, they didn't. No, you can't do that either. And so they kind of completely in post, they fuzzy focused the whole thing out.
There seems to be a theme here with this video.
So it looked like a big, fuzzy cotton ball or something. We were censored from the very beginning. I mean, we used to, in the beginning, like I said, the Leela and the Snakes were strippers, and we used to do Tom Jones. I used to do It's Not Unusual with Tom Jones, and they were topless. And in San Francisco, topless, that's not a big deal. No, it was no problem. And then when we went to like Kansas on tour, on the first tour, they went, no. And so then they started wearing pasties, little pasties over their nipples. And that didn't last long either. Then they had to start wearing bras. And, we constantly were censored. And I remember once we came into this city. I can't remember what city it was. Some, St. Louis or something. I can't remember where. And the district attorney for that city showed up at the sound check, and he goes, okay, I know that, we've heard about you. We've heard of your reputation. You have sex on stage. And I'm going, no, dude, please. We're not, no. We don't do sex on stage. That doesn't happen.
It's not our thing.
Yeah. He goes, I know there's nudity, and there's going to be nudity. And if you have a naked person on the stage, we're going to charge you $10,000. We're going to fine you for, there's no nudity. And so we had this nude leotard, a body suit, right? A body stocking. Full-length body stocking, and on it, Prairie had airbrushed genitalia right? He airbrushed breasts and genitalia. And that's what I would always show these guys. I get the thing out and go, look, it's not nudity. They're wearing a nude body stocking that's airbrushed. That's it. It's just paint. And I went, oh, okay. And then they would never charge us. But of course, they never wore the body stocking. It was only
really a technicality, I suppose.
Right. It was only in the box to show the district attorney. And there you go. Okay. You put that away. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, you mentioned Canada. How did you guys wind up on Gil Fisher's Fishin' Musician?
Oh, that's so great. SCTV SCTV was so great. And in fact, I just saw Catherine O'Hara just the other day. She lives here in LA, and we went to see Derek Smalls. Harry Shearer had a concert doing his Spinal Tap character. It was just brilliant. And I saw her there, and she came. I hadn't seen her since we had done SCTV, and she came up and said, hello, remember? I said, oh my God, man, I love Schitt's Creek. It's so great. And then they got all those Emmys this year. She's so brilliant. We also did on that same episode, we did her show. We did Talk to You Later on Lola Heatherton.
Right. Yeah, because you did Sushi Girl with Fishin' Musician.
Right.
And then you were with Catherine on for her segment.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, we fly to Edmonton. At the time they were doing it in Edmonton, Canada. And so we're at a hotel in Edmonton, and the producer calls up and goes, okay, there's a lake. We want to go to this lake, which is outside of town about an hour. And John's going to show up at 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow in a limousine. And we're going to take all you guys out to the lake, and we're going to do this shoot. And we went, okay, great. So 6 o'clock in the morning, John Candy shows up, sitting in the back of the limousine, and he's got a case of beer and a bag of weed. And he's already smoked 2 or 3 joints. And so we all get into the limousine, and we drink beer and smoke pot all the way out to this lake that's an hour outside of town. And by the time we get there, we're just, and of course, John Candy is, it didn't even faze him. And so we got all these boats, and we're wearing our completion backward gray flannel suits, and we're sitting in these boats, pretending to be fishing. And we're like pulling up boots, and we're pulling up logs, and we're pulling, and they're, filming it all. And then, we get into the little cabin to do the interior shots and to play the song, to do Sushi Girl. And I said, well, what's the script? What's the plan here? And John goes, what do you mean script? There's no script. I said, well, what are we going to, he goes, don't worry about it. We're just going to wing it. Okay. Not a problem. And the guy, no problem. And the guy is he's a brilliant guy. He's so brilliant. And so the whole thing was ad lib, top to bottom ad lib. And, when we get to doing the song, I find that, these guys have brought in 50 pounds of gutted trout and then dump it on the table, and a big pile of white rice. And he goes, okay, I just do whatever you want, And so I'm like scooping the rice into the guts of the trouts and eating it. And the guy was amazing. He was so amazing and so funny and, so quick. And it was something else. He was really cool.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, speaking of funny, I remember you telling a story about when the Tubes were touring, your bus didn't say the Tubes
Oh,
in the side.
right.
I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The bus, on the front of the bus, they've got the above the front windshield, there's like a name, and there's rollers there, and this bus had previously been used by Burt Reynolds, and so we roll up Burt Reynolds across the top of the windshield, and uh we should, and we had a crew guy. His name was Steve Borges, and we called him Chopper, and he was like the production manager. He was the head of the crew, and but he looked like Burt Reynolds, and he had kind of dark short hair, and he had a big mustache, and pretty big guy. And we used to roll into a hotel, and I don't know, I guess the word got around. I mean, there was no internet back then. I don't know what, but we would like, people would see Burt Reynolds and they would like gather around the bus, and we would put a towel over Chopper's head, and we would like rush him out of the bus into the hotel room. He goes, "Oh, Burt can't do interview. No, Burt can't sign anything." And it was so funny. That was so funny.
Yeah, I'm sure there was probably quite a few disappointed people, who thought they were going to get their chance to see the Bandit.
Burt, no. Burt doesn't do photos. No.
Oh, too funny. Well, tell you what, Pete, we're actually way past our time here. You've got so many great stories. With the new album, like as we said before, the new album really rocks. Yeah. And it's it's an album that I have a hard time finding what track is my go-to track, if you will. Do you have one that you're partial to?
Well, the Faker was my favorite song for a long time, because it was the first song we did, and then when we got back around to doing to finishing it off, I love the Man of the World song because it's so sarcastic, and and it's so apropos. It's so apropos of people and their phones and their social media, and it's just but I have to say, Don't Pull the Trigger, Don't Want to Pull the Trigger is, I think, my favorite song. That's the one I always go to. We're actually we're working on doing a video of it. We did some lyric videos, so far we've just done one lyric video for Faker, and we have Man of the World is in process right now, and then I want to do a live like a performance video for Don't Want to Pull the Trigger, and I want to get the band together. I want to get Richard and the guys from his band, Why Not, and Brian and Jay, and maybe Matt Scannell too, and do a live performance video of that track. So I guess, that's the one that I guess it's, people talk about it. And the other one I really like is the last track, Meant to Be Alone. And that's kind of the one that people go, man, you sound like the Foo Fighters. This is a Foo Fighters song. And
that was one of the tracks that really jumped out at me.
Yeah. And that was the very last one we recorded. That was the last one. And I've always been a huge fan of Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. I actually have known him for a while, and I met him. There's a store on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks in the Valley called Iguana, and it's a vintage clothing store. And I always go there to find costumes, and they have all these old suits and hats and all these weird things. And I've been there quite a few times getting Tubes costumes when we put a new show together. And I was there once, and I look across the room, and there's Dave Grohl in there with his wife, and I'm just, oh my God, that's Dave Grohl, and I walked right up to him and I said, Dave, you know, I'm Fee Waybill. I'm the singer in the Tubes, and I think you're great, man. Your voice is so great. I wish I could scream and yell and sing like you. And we became friends. And he lives in the Valley, and so, you know, I went to his birthday. He had his 40th birthday party at Medieval Times. You know what those are? Those, oh yeah, kind of fake medieval places where they have horses and they're jousting.
You're jousting while you eat with your hands.
You eat a giant turkey leg with your hands, and then you know, I was fortunate enough to sing background vocals on Wasting Light a couple of albums ago, and I sang background vocals on Miss the Misery, and then when they came, you know, the highlight of my career, I got to sing with the Foo Fighters. They played the Forum here in LA, which is an arena like where the Lakers used to play, a basketball arena, and the Foo Fighters did 2 nights at the Forum, and I got to do a cameo background vocal performance on that song, which was so cool for me. And so, you know, I have all their records, and I listen to them all the time. And he's, I mean, I don't know how, talk about vocalists. I don't know how he does that. And every night he screams like that and has such gravel in his voice, and yet can do the ballads and do the pretty songs. And I mean, that guy is incredible. His vocals are incredible. And so that's why I was kind of really thrilled when people were reviewing Meant to Be Alone, and they were saying, oh, it's Fee Fighter. It's the Fee Fighter.
Now, have you played that track for Dave?
I have not, actually. I haven't talked to him in a while, not since the, you know, pandemic.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to get his take on it.
Yeah, I should. I guess I should do that. I should share it on Apple Music or something. Send it to him.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But anyway, thank you for having me. I mean,
you know what? It's been great. You know, you know, even with as divergence as what our conversation got, there's still things that we didn't even get to talk about. So hopefully you'll have time to come back so we can get to those stories.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty available, you know. Well, so, like, I'm touring, so I'm you know, working on pulling weeds on the backyard grass.
Well, it appears as though Daisy approves, so you must be doing a good job.
Yeah, Elizabeth came back and saw Daisy chewing on a stick and took it away from her and took her inside. She's sitting right there looking out the back door at me. So she's such a sweet dog. We just rescued her last December. We rescued her from China.
Oh, wow.
Where she was, there's these girls that we know who are rescuing dogs in China. And they're English teachers, actually. They're teaching English, and at the same time they're rescuing dogs because, you know, dogs are not very well.
Customs are different there than what they are here.
They're different, and we rescued Daisy, and they put her on a plane and sent her over, and they had been doing that with now they've shut it down, and they're desperately trying to export these dogs that they have. They have a big facility over there, and but we got her right before they shut it down, and we were so happy. And
oh, good.
She's just a 2-year-old female yellow lab, and just the sweetest thing on earth. So
that's great. That's great. So, but
rescue a dog in your local city. Okay, rescue some dogs. They need help.
That's how my Rufus came to be my boy. So.
Oh, really?
Oh
good
yeah,
for you.
absolutely.
What kind of dog is it?
He is a Beagle, Dachshund, Jack Russell Terrier mix.
Wow, wow.
And what's funny is there's like 6 pups in the litter, and they were actually originally found in Texas, and then through the adoption fostering network, made their way to the Chicago area.
Wow.
And it was a real crazy story about how I found this dog. Social media, I had stayed away from it for like 9 months basically. And I went back on because somebody had sent me something or other, and what I do, the first picture I see is this pup. And I look at it and I think, that's a cool looking dog.
Yeah.
Well, so log off, but I get reply or whatever. I see it. The first picture that comes up is this dog, but it's shared by somebody else. And then it happens a third time. And I'd been through a similar situation many years ago with a dog where, the breeder there just said, "Hey, this is destiny. This is your dog."
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I said, "You know what? I'm getting that same feeling that I had, with my Dalmatian." And so, we call or I call and I talk to the foster mom, and she's got like 300 questions for me. Well, what, in the home, will the dog have this? I'm like, well, we're going to convert the basement into a spa because I want to make sure the dog has got access to the hot tub and a masseuse. And, so fortunately she had a sense of humor. So we go to see the dog, and the dog came right to me, and it's, he's been my buddy ever since.
Yeah,
So.
that's great. That's great. My mother used to love dachshunds. We used to have dachshunds when I was a kid. So they're good. They're really a cool dog, little hot dogs.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is Rufus has got the long legs from the terrier.
Oh,
but the brother from the litter had the dachshund legs. So when we first went to go, get him, he's there with the brother, and the brother is walking underneath him. Wow. And you see the face, you could go, okay, you can see the family resemblance, but from the neck down, you'd never have a clue that they were siblings.
That's funny. Well, good for you. Good for you. I love I mean, ever since we hadn't had a dog for a long time, and I was so brokenhearted when I had a lab before that lived to be 16, and when she passed, I just freaked out completely, and I couldn't deal with another dog. And it's been like 3 years, but then we heard about this situation, in China, and the girl, it's a friend of that my wife plays tennis with, and she goes, "Well, just meet the dog. We'll go to the park and we'll bring the dog, and I'm fostering it for a while, but I've already got 5 dogs, and just see if you don't like her, we can right."
I was just going to say, if you go, the dog's coming home with you.
You're done. Exactly. Right. You're done. I mean, the dog just immediately runs and jumps and is happy and running. Oh, and the dog lived in a crate for 2 years in China, its first 2. And I don't know how the dog is this happy. And of course, she's so grateful, And we take her for a walk every day to the park, and we've got a nice backyard, and she runs around. And I mean, in fact, we have a little shelf where we keep her leash. And when it's time to go, she'll go to the shelf and she'll pick up the leash. And she'll okay. And she's holding the leash in her mouth, going, "Okay, it's time to go. Let's go. Okay, come on. Okay, Daisy, here we go."
That's a good dog.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. So anyway, thanks, Michael, so much for this. This is
no problem. I've enjoyed it. Like I say, there's so many other things we didn't get to, so we'll have to do it again if you're willing to come back.
Yeah, and talk to Tom. Not a problem.
All right, will do.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. On that note, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up. You heard Fee; he's going to be back again sometime soon, and
I want to go to the theater. I want to come to the Majestic.
Oh, that would, it's a very cool old theater. If you're an architecture buff,
Yeah.
then you would definitely like the place.
Oh yeah. It's like an old Art Deco theater.
Yeah, well, the theater itself's 112 years old,
Oh man.
and yeah, so I mean, it's got got the character, and it's all the brickwork, and you can still go into like where the original entrance was, and the old smoking rooms and stuff is all not currently being used, but it's all still there. So
Wow.
it's a really cool facility.
Okay.
So when you come to town, you'll have to come out.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Okay, everybody, we'll tell you what, we're going to wrap up this edition of Music Night at the Majestic. Fee, thank you so much. Throughout the show, we've had, feewaybill.com across the bottom. Fee Waybill Rights Again is available on all digital platforms, so make sure you pick up a copy. Until then, everybody, have a good night.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Fee.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media. This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.